When I was 17, I looked, fucking hell, fuck off with this bitch. I developed like a woman through puberty, now I have caveman level testosterone. So let me tell you a story. This morning, I was on the balcony sunning my balls, and I was, I was contemplating morning wood. It's a true story, by the way. I was contemplating morning wood, right? And I was trying to make correlations. Why is it so that sometimes I wake up and my dick is limp, and some other and some other times I wake up, and in fact I wake up so many times during the night because my dick is so rock hard that it wakes me up. Do you know what I mean? And I was contemplating setting my balls until I had this eureka moment, right? So those days that I have a limp ass dick, usually the night before, number one, I didn't get much sunlight. That's obvious, whether it's vitamin D, whether it's like circadian rhythm regulation, luteinizing hormone production, whatever the fuck. Every time I get a lot of sunlight, like I'm grilling, I'm whatever, like I'm in the sun a lot, like I'm drinking coffee at the sun, whatever, always the next day, it's almost guaranteed I'm gonna wake up numerous times, dozens of times, or maybe not dozens, but like a dozen times during the night, because my dick is so rock hard that it like protrudes against the covers and against everything, right? Okay. And the second thing is gluten. The second thing is eating this peasant food, like bread, like pasta, like, you know, these fucking things, like, what else has gluten? Bread, pasta, these things, right? Anything that has gluten, right? Wheat. And I started investigating this topic. I was like, it's actually one-to-one. And it's not only that, because not only do I wake up with a limp dick, but I'm also less like motivated. I'm less, you know, I'm less ready to go. I'm more sluggish. Do you know what I mean? It's not a good feeling to be in. So I started investigating this. I already knew a lot about the thing of like, you know, the fact that it causes inflammation, that certain people are more sensitive to it, certain people are not sensitive to it. And in fact, you know, I started thinking about this through my own personal experience, because I like to talk about my authentic personal experience and just use research studies if it makes sense, right? I look at research studies, okay, but I have to test it myself. And every time that I've not been eating pastas, breads, etc., and I've been having carbohydrates from other sources, right? Even rice, to be honest, even sweet potatoes, they worked. But avoiding gluten, I was just operating at, I don't know, like 50% better, even more, maybe twice as good. Right? So let's get into this. So what happens when gluten gets into our body is it causes our gut to release such a thing called zonulin, right? So what is the zonulin? Zonulin is basically a protein which is released inside of the gut, and it's there to, you know, as a response to gluten, because gluten in itself is also a protein. But unfortunately, zonulin, it does a lot of things that are bad for the gut, right? So think about it as like a pirate. It goes into the gut and it starts poking at the junctions of the intestine walls, right? Our intestines, they're made of these little like walls like this. Okay, this is our intestine from the inside, right? And let's say it's a circular, whatever, like intestines, and every time that they touch another cell, there's a junction, right? And this is called a tight junction. Every time that they're attached together, in order to make it so that it's not, you know, you can't actually put anything through it, right? No shit basically can escape into the bloodstream. Our body evolved these tight junctions, and these dickhead zonulin pirates, they come in and they start cutting these tight junctions, right? They start poking at it, right? And some people are so sensitive to it that literally they can cause a lot of damage. But even if you're not sensitive to it, it will still cause damage. It will still loosen these tight junctions. And what happens when you loosen these tight junctions inside of our intestines, right? Well, what happens? Your shit, right? All these toxins, the dip shit, all that stupid stuff, that gets into your bloodstream, right? Just the same way as, for example, our intestines absorb zinc, our intestines absorb vitamins and all that shit, right? The same way, it also absorbs shit. And if you tighten these junctions, that stuff gets into your blood, right? So tightened junctions, so loosened tight junctions causes, what does it cause? It causes inflammation, right? In fact, it not only causes inflammation, but it causes chronic inflammation, because every time that you eat, every time that you digest food, right, that shit escapes into the blood constantly, and it constantly releases these pro-inflammatory cytokines. So that's one of the things it does. It basically, because of the effect of zonulin, because of the fact that it's called leaky gut, right? Because of the fact that our gut is leaky and it leaks shit into the bloodstream, we have such a thing as chronic inflammation. Now, everybody likes to talk about inflammation, but why exactly is inflammation? Why is it, well, not inflammation, because in fact, when you're working out, right, when you're in the sauna, when you're doing cold exposure, when you're, especially when you're doing like high intensity training, whether that's resistance, whether that's sprints, there's a lot of inflammation going on, right? That's your body's adaptive mechanism. It's a stress reaction. But what about chronic inflammation? Well, what does chronic inflammation have to do with testosterone? Why is it so fucking bad? Well, first of all, inflammation will actually increase aromatase activity, right? What is aromatase? Aromatase converts testosterone into estrogen. We have increased aromatase activity, which means more estrogen is being made from testosterone. In other words, more testosterone is being converted into estrogen, right? So that's number one. Let's talk about number two. The actual damage. Inflammation causes damage to the Leydig cells, right? The cells that are present inside of our nuts. It basically makes them produce less testosterone. It makes them be less sensitive to luteinizing hormone. What is luteinizing hormone? It's the hormone which stimulates them to produce testosterone, right? So number two, Leydig cell damage. Number three, we have the inflammation of the pituitary. The pituitary is an organ found inside of the brain. Why is it so important? Because of the fact that the pituitary is what releases luteinizing hormone. It is what reacts to gonadotropin releasing hormone. Remember, kisspeptin, gonadotropin releasing hormone, which then stimulates the pituitary to create luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, which then travel with the bloodstream downwards into the Leydig cells, etc., right? So inflamed pituitary means less luteinizing hormone production. Now, last but not least, we have epigenetic changes. So changes in the DNA methylation responsible for androgen receptors, right? Remember, our body is chock-a-block full of androgen receptors. When you release androgens such as testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, etc., these bind to the receptors. Now, if you have a lot of testosterone, that's not enough. You need a lot of androgen receptors as well. It turns out that chronic inflammation, one of the things it does, is it actually turns on the genes, it upregulates the genes, which make less androgen receptors. Or in other words, it makes less of the genes, it decreases the expression of the genes, promoting androgen receptors. So, epigenetical changes to androgen receptors, decreasing androgen receptors. So we talked about basically the pro-inflammatory properties of zonulin, right? It gets released, it loosens the tight junctions, which causes chronic inflammation and all the downstream effects from that, right? What about the fact that zonulin, as it pokes those tight junctions, it also actually makes it so that the intestines, they absorb less minerals, right? It makes it so that zinc, even when it's, even when you put it into the body in the form of zinc citrate, etc., or through the form of beef, which is very, very bioavailable, because of the fact that it has been damaged, right? Because of the fact that zonulin has poked holes inside of the intestinal walls, it actually decreases the absorption of zinc. So that's the second effect. So what that leads to is zinc deficiency. So we have zinc deficiency caused by malabsorption, caused by damaged intestinal lining. Now, obviously, this is a reversible process. We can remove gluten and everything gets back to normal. But what does zinc deficiency, what is this correlated in, right? If you look at the studies where they literally compared people that do eat gluten and people that don't eat gluten, obviously, the more sensitive you are, the worse those effects will be, but everybody is sensitive to some extent. But zinc deficiency is linked to, first of all, less DHT production, right? What is DHT? DHT is 10 times as powerful as testosterone. It binds 10 or 3 to 10 times depending on the tissue. But it basically is, it's made when testosterone is converted into dihydrotestosterone through this enzyme called 5-alpha reductase, right? And zinc is crucial. It is the limiting factor for 5-alpha reductase, right? It is the bottleneck. So the less zinc you have, the less 5-alpha reductase you make. Remember also that zinc cannot be stored in the body. So it's not like vitamin D that you can, through the summer you're making, and then you can actually store it in your liver, in your fat cells for months on end. Zinc needs to be given into the body all the time. So we have less DHT production, we have less androgen receptors. Remember, androgen receptors are also extremely crucial. Well, zinc is extremely crucial for androgen receptors. Well, these are the effects of zinc deficiency. But what are some other effects of actually damaging the intestinal lining of the gut, right? Cholesterol absorption, dietary cholesterol absorption is actually inhibited. Not completely, but it's actually reduced, just like with zinc. So when you eat your 10 eggs, 12 eggs per day, if you had good intestinal lining, they would be absorbed very well. But because of this fucking zonulin molecule, these pirates that damage that intestinal lining, you actually excrete a lot of the cholesterol with your shit, right? Because it's not absorbed, because of the fact that the intestinal lining isn't as efficient at doing so. Now, what does less cholesterol mean? Well, that's less building blocks for testosterone. Remember, cholesterol is the precursor to testosterone. So if you can increase the efficiency of your cholesterol absorption, well, naturally, you're gonna have more cholesterol in the blood, right? All that being said, right, even if you're not sensitive, even if your family wasn't sensitive genetically, you weren't given those celiac disease genes, consider just removing it from the diet completely and see what happens. Or just give it a try. Try it out for like a week, 2 weeks, a month, right? 30 days. And see how your body reacts, because I guarantee that you're going to see some noticeable improvements, right? And if not, just think about times, if you had any times where you actually didn't consume any gluten. Think about the times how you felt, how your body reacted, how quick you were, how focused you were, right? Because maybe you'll realize that the inflammation caused by this molecule right here, maybe, okay, it might affect your testosterone levels a bit less, but the inflammation itself, because of the fact that it can cross the blood-brain barrier, etc., 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 maybe it'll just slow you down. It'll cause less focus. It'll make it so that you've got more of an attention deficit disorder and all these things, right? So that's it. So summarizing, we have these pirates that are being released when gluten is put into the gut, right? It's called zonulin. What do? They poke holes in the tight junctions of the gut. Now, that leads to 3 problems. First of all, because of the fact that it's damaged, it causes a zinc deficiency, which is caused by malabsorption, and it causes also a cholesterol malabsorption, right? A decrease in dietary cholesterol absorption. Now, the second one is because of the fact that those tight junctions, they're loose, that causes the shit, your stool, and the toxins inside of the shit to actually go into the blood. Now, the body has to detoxify that blood. It has to get rid of this shit, and it does so through inflammation, right? Inflammation is a cause of it, right? Now, if the inflammation is chronic, what happens? You have an increased aromatase activity, which leads to more estrogen from testosterone, more conversion of testosterone into estrogen. Number 2, you have Leydig cell damage. So you basically you make less testosterone because of the fact that your testicles are damaged. Number 3, you have an inflamed pituitary. What does the pituitary do? It actually produces luteinizing hormone. It sends it with the bloodstream down towards the testicles and stimulates the production of testosterone. And finally, when it's very long-term chronic inflammation, we have epigenetic changes which cause less androgen receptors epigenetically, right? Through the methylation of DNA, of the various DNA strands that cause the expression of this DNA, which then makes your body make more androgen receptors. Done. So that being said, for all of you killers, well, first of all, I want you to subscribe to the channel. This is free content. This is free knowledge. I want you to have this. I want you to know when I post. I post twice a week, so the knowledge is free. Now, when you want to take, if you want to take this process on steroids, if you want to really go ham with this and in 3 months change your life, basically become the person who you wanted to become, or at least build the habits of that person so you can be who you wanted to be in 2 years, right? And do that in 3 months. There's a link below. There's a link to my my calendar, right? So you can basically book a call with me. It's 30 minutes and we'll discuss, we'll get to know each other. And if I see certain character traits that are required, I'm going to make you an offer, right? But for the time being, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.